During the Viper to Ascendant series, I non-stop played Viper for a few weeks and I learned a lot of things. And in this video I'm gonna share everything I learned about this agent, so you don't make the same mistakes as I did if you want to pick up Viper. In this Viper guide I talk about her playstyle, give you tips, tricks, and in the end I'll answer the question, is Viper a good agent to rank up with? Also, if you're wondering, I made these type of videos for a lot of other agents. I'll put the playlist link at the top of the description if you're interested in that. Now sit back, relax and enjoy the video. The Viper abilities. Let's start with her signature ability, the Viper wall. Immediately, one of the biggest tips about Viper that I can give you is to stop using your wall before or right after the barriers are going down on the attacker side every round. Even in the higher elos like diamonds, I still see enemies doing it and it gives out so much info. Instead, I would recommend doing this. Wait with using your wall until the enemies get info and you're certain that you want to push. Take this round for example. Here, I didn't use my wall for a while, but I slowly pushed up. I waited till my teammates were ready to push, and that's the moment when I used my wall. If I used my wall earlier in this round, then it was more obvious for the enemies that we were going B, and they might have rotated a bit earlier. And in the end, we won this round. Of course, keep in mind, there's nothing wrong with placing your wall a bit earlier, so now and then, maybe to fake the enemies out, you know. But still, if you want to go for a play and you want to try to fake the enemies out by placing your wall on the wrong side, a delayed wall is usually more effective to faking the enemies. But now the question, how do you use your wall on the attacker side? Often the best way to place your wall is to block off half of the side. Like this on Breeze for example. There are a few spots where the enemies could be standing, but you can simply pick them up with your team and that's very simple. It's way better than giving the enemies too much control over the side like this. If you place your wall like this, the enemies will prepare for the retake when your wall goes down and that's not very good. And if you use your wall too much to the outer edges, then the enemies have enough room to create crossfires and things like that, and that's also no good. Phew, that was a lot of info. I hope you have some water or something, because things will about to get way more insane. Let's talk about the defender side now. Like on the attacker side, a lot of people would use their wall at the start of the round. At first I thought that this was a bad thing, but to be honest, on the defender side, some walls are just so extremely overpowered. Like this wall on Split, you block off a main, ramp and middle, and because these walls are so overpowered, there's nothing wrong with placing these walls a lot of the rounds. Consider saving your walls in some rounds, because it's also a very useful tool for the retake. Before we move on, 3 very useful facts about the wall. The first one, did you know that it extends a little bit longer than it looks like on the minimap? In this example, it looks like it doesn't touch the wall, but in fact it does. The second thing is that you can also use your wall to create red spots, like over here on Breeze. A lot of people won't expect you in this corner. Or of course, you can use your wall to create small little gaps where you can see through. Oh! And the last thing is that the wall as a defensive measure is not that good. If you place your wall like this for example, the enemies can simply just flash through the wall and then jump out of it with their team. Your wall doesn't decay the health of your enemies that much if they are just jumping through. This however is very different for the Viper Q, her orb. Here are a few things you have to know about this ability. The first thing, unlike your wall, if you place your orb down to defend the side, like this for example, it's extremely hard for the enemies to push through it. If the enemies decide to push through the smoke anyway, they'll be very low by the time they get out of the smoke. So you can go for some easy kills if they do, especially if you combine it with the Molotov. Another thing you have to know about the Viper Q is that if you pick it up, it doesn't go on cooldown. This knowledge is really useful, especially in those 1v1 or 1v2 situations. On bind, did you throw down your orb at long? Instead of deactivating it and waiting for the cooldown, try to pick it up and immediately throw it a bit closer to the spike. Just like I did in this round, easy win.
One enemy remaining.
You also could use this ability for one-ways, but I personally don't really like that because often with one-ways it's very hard to pick up your Q again and there's less area of the smoke where the enemies will take damage if they are walking through it. I prefer to just place it on a simple spot, so if the enemies go to a different side, I can pick it up and use it for the retake. Or occasionally I would go for the aggressive play. If the enemies see your Viper smoke, they often don't expect you pushing. Haha, sometimes you gotta play aggressive, right?
One enemy remaining.
Oh, sometimes you gotta play aggressive. Now let's move on to her C ability, the Molotov. Luckily, this one is pretty straightforward, so I won't talk about it for too long. You basically just use your Molotov to get enemies out of corners, to stop enemies pushing, or for the post plant, of course. The only important thing about this ability that I can say is that you should know the lineups. And a small tippy, you don't have to learn all the lineups by head. What I always did was when I hopped into a game, I quickly went to YouTube before the game starts and just learned 2 post plant lineups in like 30 seconds. Bonus. Use your Molotov through the teleporter, the door will open and then easy peasy kills for you. Simple ability, right? I'll go over some combos later this video, but first their ultimate. I think most people agree that the Viper ultimate is one of the best ultimates in the game. It can single-handedly win rounds, even eco rounds, but you need to know how to use it. Here are a few tips. If you ever played Viper and you got their ultimate on the attacker side, then you might have noticed that it's often very hard to use your ultimate on the spot where you want to use it. By the time you get to that spot, the enemies have already killed you. But no worries, here's a very useful thing you can do. You remember that thing I said about the walls at the start of the video? That you shouldn't be giving the enemies too much control over the side with your wall? Well, my friends, if you have your ultimate ready, then it doesn't hurt to give the enemies that extra control over the side. Because if you place your wall more to the right like this, it's way easier for you to push a bit further and then use your ultimate. This is a trick that I used a lot on every map in Valorant, and it makes it easy to place your ult down. Another tip about the Viper ultimate is that you don't have to stand inside your pit the whole time. Take this 1v1 for example. Instead of staying inside my pit, I decided to walk out of it, and the enemy Phoenix did not expect that. Easy kill. Be unpredictable, my friends. And the last ultimate specific tip on the defender side is also very simple, but wait with using your ult until you're for sure that the enemies are going to push. So don't use your ultimate when you hear a few steps, but use your ultimate at the point that the enemies are using their flash and smokes and things like that. So there's less chance that the enemies will rotate back when they see your ulti. A bit like this. Sad that I messed up though, I should have used my mollies over it. So that was a lot of information about the abilities. Let's now go to the next topic, her playstyle, and after that talk about combos. Since Viper has so much vision based utility like her wall, smokes and the pit of course, you kinda have to play Viper like a sneaky little rat. Take this round for example. In this round a lot of enemies were surrounding me and the only thing I had was my smoke. But the good thing, the smoke will decay the health of the enemies and not your own health. So if you play around your smoke you will always have an advantage over your enemy. And that's how I got some kills in this round, even though I was surrounded and basically dead.
Spike planted.
Ho ho ho! Oh, okay, we got two. Okay, before you say it, I'm not Santa Claus. Sometimes my laugh is a bit strange, I guess. Let's now talk about her playstyle on the attacker side. One of the greatest Viper strengths is her ability to win the post plants. So on the attacker side, I would highly recommend to try to stay alive. Don't push in first, let the duelist do that. What you gotta do is just assist your teammates with good utility, a good wall, maybe plant the spike yourself, and then chill like a sneaky little rat far away from the side with the lineup. It might not be the most flashy way to play Valorant, but you will win a lot of rounds. Another way you can play Viper on the attacker side is kinda as a bait, and that's by going to a completely different side, use your wall over there. And the Viper wall is one of those abilities that if the enemies see them going down, they will almost always think that you're gonna push that side with your team, but in fact you're just a little bait. And now our playstyle on the defender side. Just like I said earlier in this video, Viper is really good at closing down sides. And because of this, if you use your smoke, molotov and maybe even your ultimate, you don't really have to run off the side and go for retakes like other agents like Sofa might do. With Viper, it's just very strong to stay on the side and stand your ground, like I did in this round.
Yeah. Clear. One more. Oh.
There's one exception though, and that's if your poison bar wears off. If you can't put up your smoke and your wall, run off the side and go for the retake. Abilities, check. Playstyle, check. Let's go to the next part. In this part of the video, I'll go over some very useful Viper combos that will help you win rounds easy peasy. The first combo I think everybody knows by now, but I just have to mention it because it's so strong. In the post plant, what you gotta do is use your Q ability on the spike, then walk a bit further and go for some lineups. The reason why this combo is so strong is that your Q ability will lower the HP of the enemies, and then your molly will just go for an insta kill, just like in this round.
Run. You need to weapon.
Remaining.
Heyo! Keep in mind for this combo it's important to first use your Q ability so the enemies will get low, and after that use your molotov, so it only has to do like 10 damage to get the enemy. Another thing you need to understand is how to use your molotov inside your ultimate. Here's how you should use it. As we all know, the Viper ultimate is usually pretty big, so enemies can enter your ulti from a lot of different angles. So what you should do with your molly is use your molly on certain spots so the enemies don't go in your ultimate from that spot. Take this round for example. In this round I used my molotov on the right side of the container, and because I used it on the right side I didn't have to check right, I could fully focus on the left side. In this round I sadly didn't get the kill, but you get the point. By using your molly wisely you don't have annoying enemies pushing behind you. Another nice combo you can use is with your wall and your molly. If your wall is about to go down, use your molly to the left side or the right side of the wall, and when it goes down the enemy will suddenly have to walk and you can get some easy kills. A bit like I did in this round.
So going down.
Oh, the big brain plays. And then, if you ever use your ultimate, it's so important that you also use your wall and your Q ability inside your ulti. It creates a lot of chaos and the enemies won't know what happened. Just look at this clip. Those were the combos, and now just a few more tips. Try to avoid activating your Q and your wall at the same time. If you do this, the bar will deplete so fast that it's not really worth it. And the last tip, try to use a phantom because you'll be shooting through smokes a lot. And with the phantom, the enemies won't see any bullet tracers. Jeez, this video was insane. But with all these tips, I think you will be ready to play Viper. If you want this type of video for any other agent, feel free to click on the playlist in the description. And don't forget to subscribe, my friends. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.